unassigned fund balance. The intent of this article is to reduce the amount of interest paid on that cruiser, which will save us some total of $7,525 over the term of the lease. Any comments from this board? The budget committee? Any questions from the public? Fair enough.
Question. What is the interest rate we're paying?
If you wouldn't mind stepping to the microphone, Mr. Moderator.
That's a good rule. Someone should put that.
Somebody should make that a rule.
Don't forget to state your name.
What is the interest rate that we're paying?
Just state your name.
State your name, please.
George Epstein, Madison, New Hampshire.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, 6.49.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Right. Any other questions on that article? Yep.
Mike Mosier, Pine Hill Road. Just moving forward, are we done leasing police cruisers and paying interest? And just going to appropriate $30,000-$40,000 a year?
If we can, moving forward with the CIP, we'd like to have expendable trust funds and things of that nature to pay for these things going forward to save us money on interest.
You'll see can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? You'll see a warrant article, I believe, later on that is to create an expendable trust fund to save specifically for police cruisers. So yeah, we hope, I think we're set for $25,000 to set aside for this year. And then because we're anticipating having to replace the 2019 Charger in the next couple of years. So hopefully if we can set aside 25 for a couple, maybe 3 years, we could buy it outright.
Take a motion from this board to recommend that article. Motion made by Jim and second by Nicole. All those in favor of recommending Article 5? Aye. Sharon?
I make a motion that the Advisory Budget Committee recommends the Article 5 for the payoff of the police cruiser. Second. Nan seconded. Is someone taking notes down there? Me. Yeah, okay. For your information, Nan seconded. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0.
All right, moving on to Article 6. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $119,457 to pay off the lease for the transfer station truck purchased in 2024 with the entire amount to come from the unassigned fund balance. And the rate on that truck is 5.94.
Article 5 we took for coming out of.
$1,033,858. Any other questions from the public?
I can't recall how much interest were we saving on that one?
$4,052. Yep. Budget committee? Hearing no more comment, do I have a motion from this board? Moved by Jake, second by Jim to recommend Article 6. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget? Okay. Doug moves. Joe seconds. All those in favor? Aye. The Advisory Budget Committee recommends 4-0 to recommend the article.
All right. Article 7. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,968,737 for general government. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. If you have your packet in front of you, have any questions regarding any of those lines, please feel free to do so.
Mike Moser again. Do we expect a large increase in needing for direct assistance? Because it's a pretty big increase in that one specifically. Needing from it.
Yep. So the concern, twofold, I believe, welfare director's stipend is in that line, so that increased by $500, but also the welfare director has a concern with some of the federal programs that are going away, producing an increase in the town demand.
Warrant article,
Correct.
and what happens if it fails?
And then the town says they don't want the investigation done. That's up to the townspeople, just like everything else on this.
Isn't it this board's decision to make that decision on the investigation?
Potentially, but putting it in a warrant article leaves it up to the townspeople, as I think most things should be.
I would just suggest that you keep it in the budget.
Yeah.
I guess then, thinking, it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, that the people of the town want us under contract sooner than the date of the meeting with MRI. That's my understanding. Signing the contract with MRI, in my opinion.
Go ahead.
Austin Thomas here. What is the point of the investigation? Like, what is the end result you're looking for?
We're looking to have an understanding of when equipment was used for personal use, how often, at what points. We're just trying to, we're trying to get information by an objective third party.
Yeah, hasn't it been discussed that there's no more using town property?
Yes,
So why go in the past if it's over?
because we need to know, as a town, what was used when, how much wear and tear was put on machines, how much fluids, how many hours were put on machines, if it was done during work hours.
And if something gets found out, what?
We don't know. We don't know until we have the information.
Sounds like the money could be used elsewhere versus on an investigation that leads to nothing.
Why would it lead to nothing?
Because if something's found out, what comes of it? Like, what happens?
We'll have to make that determination when we have all the information.
So,
We received somewhere between 30 and 32 letters requesting inquiries about the personal use, and I would say maybe 10 of them put a mandate on us to do an investigation. Wanted to know the who, what, where, why, when, and how. And I guess we are, as electeds, we are. That's our job, is to take that request and run with it because it was requested. And if the town and the rooms have been filled with people requesting this investigation, so I don't think in my seat for me to just say no. You know, they're asking us to do it, and we kind of have to because they asked us to do it.
So I guess my question as far as money goes, are you looking for the basis of this investigation to recoup money? Whereas we're looking for theft of town services or however you're putting it, are we looking to recoup that money or are we just spending money on an investigation so that you can say you made an investigation?
We don't know what's going to happen until we have the information. It's unfortunate that we're in this position. I would say everyone in this room and well beyond this room and town employees all wish we weren't put in this position, but we're here, so we have to address it.
just so that everybody has all the information to speak to Cheryl's question, we cannot recoup any money from this investigation. That has been made clear by legal counsel.
Legal counsel, was based on the information, based on the email, he didn't have all the information or didn't have it correct. Not that I think we will go that route, but I don't think that that answer was definitive because it was incomplete information.
What information was missing?
If I recall correctly, the email said that the selectmen were aware of this, and that it's been going on for years. I have not been aware of this as a selectman for 2 years. I've asked about it periodically and not been given accurate answers. And so, to my knowledge, I have not been notified for the policy. I have not been made aware, except residents asking me questions that I bring to the table. So if his assumption, if his answer is based on the selectmen have been aware of this for years, that's not a correct assumption.
The previous selectmen have stated that they were aware.
When did they do that?
What's that? In my conversations.
So you're having private conversations with the selectmen when this is something that should be
Previous,
coming
I
to the
said,
board?
I stated previous.
Right, but you're having conversations
After
even
they've
with...
left
with-
office.
Right, but with previous selection that this board hasn't been privy to?
I can have conversations with citizens.
When it's talking about an investigation, I would think that that would be something that would come to this whole board.
Nicole, back to what you were saying, you said the people want it, so it should be put on the warrant article for people to vote on, versus 32 people talking for the whole town. Same article, kind of different topic though. Personnel administration, that's kind of like the salary wage lines for, or is that somewhere different?
No, go ahead.
Salaries are in each department, that
Okay,
personal
part- part of
administration.
the, like, say, highway, parks and rec line, it's down those, like, our 40.
The administration line for Article 8 has the DPW employees' salaries.
Okay.
The personal administration is pretty much just FICA, retirement, dental, health.
Yeah, the stuff on the admin side.
One more thing to add about the investigation is that I feel like we were going to have an internal investigation, but we have, I'm under the understanding of that we do things as a board, and then I hear things like people have spoken to other people, other parties involved about the investigation. So the way to have an impartial one is to go third party. I don't want to do that, but I feel like we've been given no choice when things like this happen.
Yeah.
But Mike, you mentioned Parks and Rec. This comes up every year. That's the beaches, like taking care of the beaches. And everybody always thinks it's like Parks and Rec, like
Yeah,
a recreation.
no.
Yeah, so I just want to let you
But
know.
that, I think, direct me in the right direction. I'll wait a minute.
Okay. All that being said, I'm gonna make a motion that we move the $8,000 to a special warrant article for the people to vote on. Do I have a second? Yeah. Yeah, seconded by Jim, open for discussion.
Okay, so then will we be putting the legal line back to 24,000?
Yeah, we would.
Or even 18, because that's all we expended? If we vote to move it, we should definitely lower the legal line by quite a bit. Because it jumped for, I'm not even aware of why it's up to $32,300.
Yeah, we added the 8,000 to that line, which put it up to 32,300, leaving it at what we proposed last year.
Right, but we only spent 18,
Yep.
so.
If we move this to a warrant article, we can certainly go back and lower that line.
What do you think?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of moving it into a warrant article? Aye.
No, I'm against. I feel like we're just kicking the can down the road about something that should just be done and over with.
And I'll just say my point again is, we've been at each meeting telling the people in the room and the people that have written the letters that we're about to sign a contract that we haven't signed. So I feel like we need to sign the contract, so I would have to vote no. And I believe that as far as having a third party, I'm more interested in maintaining the morale of our employees by not having us directly involved with that. I think it's very important that we stay out of it.
I'm certainly on board with a third party, and I think we need to make a point that our fiscal year is January to December, and expending large sums of money that don't fund general operation of the town, or entering into contracts that don't fund general operation of the town, are frowned upon before voting season anyway. So whether it was in the budget or in a warrant article makes no difference as to when we really should be starting it based on DRA.
We have 6,000 of the 8,000 left in legal that we haven't spent from last year.
Right, but we would have needed to encumber it before now to spend it that way. But we have 3 ayes and 2 nays. So that passes, so we'll remove 8,000 and put it in as a warrant article at the end.
What?
Did you have anything else for me before I?
No, this is just.
So that being said, we discussed what we should move that legal line to.
Come to us.
I would make a motion to move it to 19,000.
19,000. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Joy. Paul?
Question.
Yep.
Do we know historically what we've spent in that line? Is that gonna cut us to, like, did we have a good year last year as far as legal wise?
In my experience, I think we're safe at 19. I think a lot of our expenditures in the recent history have been short-term rental related, and we have a fund for that.
Just, I'm fine with that, I just wanted to make sure.
Motion's been made and seconded to move the legal line to 19,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jake, to answer your question, in 2024, we expended $18,311.50.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Absolutely.
Now that this 8,000 has been moved to a warrant article, at what point will we have the wording in order to vote on a warrant article?
That's good.
I hear you.
Okay, so we can create the intent with some wording, and we'll place it on the end of the warrant, and we can vote to recommend at the end.
Not without the actual wording. I'm not comfortable having the advisory budget committee vote on a warrant article that includes money without having the actual wording. Because we're voting on a principle, yes, of spending the 8K, but the wording could end up coming out of the unassigned fund balance. It could be, you know, a raise and appropriate, or any number of other wordings, and it's not, that's not appropriate for the ABC to vote on something they don't know what the wording is.
Yeah, go ahead.
When it comes to the wording of DRA, not everything in the warrant that you have in front of you tonight has been approved by DRA. If you come up with the wording tonight with the intent as well as you can make it, the only thing that DRA would do would make something legal in it. They wouldn't change the intent if there had to be any changes to the article itself.
Is there $8,000 left in the unassigned fund balance that this money could come out of? If there is, then would we have the ability to spend it before the March 10th 14th voting?
No.
No.
Can't spend unassigned fund balance without approval.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
We can't spend unassigned fund balance without a vote of the people.
A vote of the people. Correct, and so either way, whether this is in the budget, well, if this is in the budget, then we can spend, because we have the authorization to spend money up to a point, obviously. It's like being in a continuing resolution almost for the federal government, but
We can, but it is frowned upon to enter into contracts or spend large sums before town meeting.
I don't know that 8K would be considered a large sum. It's $8,000. We spend
The
that kind of
problem
money
being is
on-
that it's not normal operating monies.
It's a legal fund. It's a legal line. That's a normal operating budget line. We're not creating a new budget line. We're
Right,
having
but
it-
we're choosing to enter into legal battle as opposed to being forced into a legal battle.
It's not a legal battle. It's a investigation.
Obligation, sorry, battle was the wrong word.
Well, not a.
We're choosing
Not
to
battle.
enter into a legal contract as opposed to being forced into one.
So then what was your proposal 2 weeks ago or a week ago when you were going to sign the contract with MRI? Where was that money going to come from?
I did not propose signing a contract. We all proposed Nicole look into it and get information for us for our next meeting.
I think that I would believe that the intent was there during that discussion to sign a contract for not to exceed $8,000. She was looking into some additional stipulations or, constraints, or could we do it this way, could we do it that way? But the intent was there to sign a contract with MRI to conduct this investigation.
Again, and I'm not saying we can't. I'm saying it's not a good idea. There's never been common practice to spend large sums of money or enter into contracts that aren't in general operating procedure before town meeting.
But can't is the operative word. So you're saying we can, it's just not the normal procedure. It's not,
Correct. And in my eyes, not the proper way to do it. I'm not sitting here saying it shouldn't be done. I'm saying we need to do it the right way.
My understanding was that we were going to step into it a little bit at a time and start with $2,000 and maybe another $15,000. Was quoted in the newspaper, which is the way I thought it was, and I was surprised to hear kind of differences. But my understanding was that we were going to spend $2,000, and that was going to get us about 15 hours of investigation, about 5 hours of reporting. And that if we needed to go further, if that didn't give us the information that we needed, that we were adding cushion up to 8,000 if we needed to go further. And my understanding also is that the only action item from that discussion was that Nicole was going to check with MRI to see what this type of investigation usually costs.
Mr. Chairman, I was there at that meeting as well. The $2,000 came up first, and from the floor, it was said that that's not going to cover it, that you're going to need the $8,000 to do it. You all agreed that $8,000 was the amount that you're going to spend to do it. And as far as I'm concerned, you agreed to do this investigation, not kick it down the road. It belongs in the budget today. It needs to be done to make sure that everybody in the town is clean based upon what we're trying to investigate. You agree?
Understood. My point is that I think that this is an item that the entirety of the voters should be voting on, not just a couple of people.
I disagree. You bought a truck for $150,000. Did the voters get to vote on that? No. Yes, it was a good deal, absolutely. But the voters did not get to vote on it. Now you're saying $8,000 has to go to the voters? Come on.
Deb Parsons, 4 Deuces Road. I just have a question about the warrant article in general. Could you tell me how in the recent past, how often we've done a warrant article based on an investigation?
Never, to my knowledge.
So there clearly isn't precedence that this is how the town has handled situations like this before. And I'm concerned that the way some things are sounding is that we're prejudging an investigation on whether it's needed or it's not. I have faith in the selectmen to make the decision on whether there needs to be an investigation or not. And frankly, sooner is better, because I don't know if anybody read the paper, but this doesn't look good for Madison. So let's take care of it and be done with it.
The Madison townspeople, George Epstein, the Madison townspeople did vote to investigate the ownership of and control of Class 6 roads and expended significant sums of money in order to do that over a period of years. So that's an example of one. Just one general comment. We're here for a public hearing. Having the two boards debating issues at this point, particularly given the selectmen have already voted for something, escapes me. I think the purpose of this meeting is for you to provide information to the townspeople and most importantly, for you to hear from the townspeople at a public hearing so you can have feedback and that will influence your final decisions, recommendations, and warrant articles.
So we're getting new information today that we haven't had previously. So I think that's why there's debate, amongst those sitting on the stage here, I guess. Thinking about it, on one hand, I do think it's appropriate for the townspeople to vote on it because the selectmen are also part of the investigation. We're going to be interviewed ourselves. So I think that it does need to be in the hands of the people to make sure that that happens.
I'm not using your fancy calculator to get me a new total for that article. That line went from 32.3 to 19.
Oh, hi. Cheryl Brooks, just some general questions, not relating to that part. Can I ask a question about something else? Okay. First of all, Madison TV, how many employees do they have?
We have 4.
4, thank you. And the library, how many hours is it open and how many hours are paid to be staffed? Well, how many hours is it open to the public and how many hours in your budget for people to be there? Like not just you, but your assistants?
Yeah, so I think we're open.
So like if you're open like 30 hours a week, are you budgeted for like 30 hours a week staff-wise, or are you budgeted for more than that? I guess is my question.
More than that, because sometimes there's 2 people on.
Okay.
Sometimes there's 1 person, sometimes there's 2.
Okay, but how many hours is the library open?
33?
33.
Something like that.
Okay.
And I assume there are hours when it's not open, that there's still work required to be done.
All right. Any other questions regarding Article 7? So the new total of Article 7 is $1,956,437.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, can you speak up? We are having a hard time hearing you over here.
Yep, the new total for Article 7 is $1,956,437. Do I have a motion from this board to recommend that article? Motion by Jim,
I'll second that.
second by Jake. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sharon?
So it's 5-0.
5-0.
Cheryl, we're open 35 hours. Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend this article? Do I have a motion from the ABC to not recommend this article? Joe motioned. Do I have a second? All those in favor of not recommending the budget?
You know, the usual method is when there's a second, there's open for discussion. Tino Fernandez, there's open for discussion. I'd like to hear the discussion about why you're voting no here, right? Isn't that the standard technique of running a meeting?
Right. Any of you would like to?
Yeah, I vote no because of the $8,000. Sorry, my vote for no is because of the moving of the $8,000. I believe it needs to be in the current budget. Thank you.
Clarification? Is that on? We are voting on Article 6, whether we approve. Article 7, whether we recommend or do not. And the number is 1953473.
1956437.
I'm voting to recommend this article. I mean, guess I was a little confused as to what we were voting on.
I also had not voted to approve this or to recommend it. Looking at a 7% increase in just this portion of the budget, I think that we as a town could do better than that. I recognize that the zoning board has a significant portion of that with a $20,000 increase to their budget regarding legal fees. However, there are other areas, and not just in this budget, within all of the town budget where things. We spent a significant amount of time asking for things to be reduced, asking for lines to be stubby penciled, and a 7% increase is tough to swallow for the taxpayer. I recognize that 3% of it, I think it's at least 3% of it, represents wage increases, but there are other areas that we had addressed that could be reduced. Not cut, reduced.
Did y'all vote? Oh.
I don't know.
I have a general question. What if this doesn't pass? Because I know the school always has a default budget. Does the town have the same thing, or are we just whatever?
No, we do not have a default budget.
So what happens if this doesn't pass?
Then we would need to have another special meeting.
Oh, fun. Okay.
George Epstein, it's significantly unlikely there'd be a need for a special meeting. The town would amend the budget until they came up with one that they voted in favor of. So this is not an SB2 operation. This is the townspeople getting together and voting for a budget that they want. And if they don't approve this exactly as it is, they'll amend it into something else and do it that day, and it'll be done.
Yes, the Advisory Budget Committee is 3-1 to vote not to recommend. So there are 3 saying we should not recommend, 1 disagreeing with that to recommend. Does that make sense, Linda? Okay, thank you.
So just for clarification, there was an error in computing. That number is $1,955,437. It did go down. All right. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,044,532 for public works. And that is $260,750 to highway, $19,201 to Parks and Rec, $134,001 to solid waste, and $630,580 to administration. Any questions from the public?
With the recent resignation, I know it's still new to everybody, but time is of the essence right now. Has there been consideration, discussion on what the future looks like with that $72,000 salary line for the director? Is it $64,000 too much, or is it not enough? Are we gonna fill it with a full-time position that somebody's not gonna do it for $72,000? Or is it going to be, are we gonna have somebody from within take it, and now we don't necessarily need their lower position? So is it 64,000 too much, or is it not enough?
It's a good question. With the timing of everything, we haven't had the opportunity as a board to discuss what we'll do with that position moving forward.
I would just hate to see $72,000 get put back into the unspent reserve fund balance if they don't fill it.
Correct. The only upside to that is we would be able to use it to buy down the tax rate next year. And I think, and you guys can all obviously have your own opinions, but I think we're going to need someone in that position, whether the title changes or the description or whatever the case may be, we do need somebody. Whether that's enough or too much, I'm not sure.
I think my proposal, or my thought is that we are going to meet with the DPW, meet with each of the guys, see what's working right now with the staff that we have, see what they need, see if we need to shift responsibilities, see if they say, no, we need, we need a director, we need someone to do X, Y, and Z. One of the guys even proposed going back to a road agent. So I feel like we need to sit down with everybody, understand all the tasks that are being performed, that need to be performed, who is capable of doing what, who wants to do what, and what will work best for the department and the town.
Yes, I also had a conversation with some of the DPW employees, and I think it's just bad timing, honestly, Mike. It's just like we have so much on our plates that something has to shift to past town meeting, and
Town doesn't stop.
I know, and in order to figure out what's going to work well, to do a good job at it, we need the time. I mean, that's how I feel. I'm sensing that from Adam and Joy. We need the time to figure it out in order for it to be effective and done better than it has been.
The other concern, you mentioned going to road agent, that would be a vote of town meeting and next year, and then it would be the following year after that, they would get elected in. So now all of a sudden, we're 3 years down the road. Instead of having an answer with leadership, departments can crumble without proper leadership. So I think something needs to be done sooner than later, one way or the other.
Yeah, we plan on taking care of it as soon as we can. I don't necessarily know that that's tied into budget season. But again, we need to consult with the guys, and it would absolutely take several years to go to a road agent. We absolutely would need to do something different in the meantime. So it's just a matter of working with the guys, working with the board, working with other folks in town, working with residents to kind of get their input and find out what we need to do.
Prior to this DPW position, it is my understanding that we were not going to have a DPW director. And then it was kind of brought up last minute. They found the money. That's how I read that's what I read in the minutes. So we're not kind of like just hanging out in the wind. This has been done before, and with the intent of continuing it. Is it comfortable? No. Is it the best scenario? No. But we're going to figure out what does work the best for our department, as opposed to the way other departments operate.
All right. Do I have a motion from this board to recommend Article 8? Motion by Jim. Second by Joy. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0, Sharon.
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend this article? Doug moved, Joe seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $692,255 for public safety, $134,442 to the ambulance contract, $11,401 to emergency management department, $165,750 to fire and rescue, $380,662 to police.
Hi.
Cheryl?
Yeah, did I read it right that the police chief is not getting a raise in his salary?
Correct.
Why?
He did not ask for one, did not want one.
Can I give him one?
I would love to.
Honestly, the principal of this school makes more money than our police chief. I think that's criminal. And he's one of the, I'm not just trying to be nice, but he's one of the most respected law enforcement personnel in this county. And I would hate to see him leave if he's not getting compensated fairly. So that is my only concern. And are there only 4 members of the budget committee? Because typically it's an odd number, that's what I'm just asking.
Typically it is, and under normal circumstances, there's usually 6 people sitting up here because we have a school board representative and the selectmen's representative, but because we're voting tonight on the town budget, neither of those 2 individuals are here. And we do have an open slot if you'd like to join.
I'm gonna echo that with the police chief, as if you start looking at every other town around here, things in the last 5 years, the pay scale is where I never thought it would be in law enforcement. And there's police chiefs positions in several towns, there's lieutenant positions that are paying more than our police chief is getting. And Jim is a humble guy, so even though he may be asking not to, you guys are his bosses, I would recommend putting one in for him.
Mr. Selectman or Chair, could I just say something? Before, I'm on. Okay. When the department heads came to speak, Chief Hayford explained a lot of things. One of the things that struck me, because he did not ask for a raise, but one of the other things he talked about was the officers on call at night after hours when we have no coverage from the state or the sheriff. So these officers rotate and take their turn at it, and there's no compensation. In other words, I mean, I worked in an operating room, and when I was on call, I was paid to be on call and available. These officers now aren't. When we asked why, because I really think they should be compensated, he said, hopefully in the next budget season we can do that. So I just bring that to your attention because he is being very careful what he's asking for. He's, you know, as you say, very reputable. So I would support a raise for him.
So we did a performance evaluation of the employees and staff who report directly to the select board. We had a lot of top performers, as you already know, and it's tried to be consistent, and some folks, more than just chief, said, you know, I don't need a raise this year, so we're trying to balance out and respect everyone who's a top performer. We're respecting folks who said it's a, you know, it's a tight budget. You know, we were very thoughtful, very thorough, and worked with the employees on this. Tough decisions all around, given the economy, given our budget. And we just appreciate all of our employees, appreciate what they do, doing our best to try to take care of them and the taxpayers.
Places to cut and save money are not in the salary pocket of the employees. You want to take care of them, treat them like they want to be here. There's items and things, tangible things within departments to cut, not what benefits them and their family and feeds their family.
Hearing those recommendations from the town, is there a motion from this board to increase that line?
I feel like we'd have to go back and revisit all of our top performers. I feel like it's not as easy as, you know, taking one person who's exceptional, and then that means the other folks who are also equally exceptional didn't necessarily get, you know, a raise either. So I feel like we would have to go back to the drawing board and sit down and go through it all again.
I don't disagree with, you know, the people that want to cut, the people that want to give top performers a raise. I'm wildly uncomfortable, I know it's public information, having these conversations when we did them in non-public. This is like, you know, I don't think anybody that works for the town would want us talking about them in this public. You know what I mean? I know, but I'm looking at you because you're right there, but it's wildly uncomfortable. I'm just saying it crosses a line.
Tough. Any other comment from this
Was
board?
he the only employee we didn't give a raise to?
No.
Two others.
Two others?
Just two others, but
I'd have to bring out
all the spreadsheet.
Yes.
I was one of the people who didn't ask for a raise. I didn't want a raise. I wanted it to be put in my department to be able to use for other people in my department who deserved it. And I think there was just that one other person that you're saying didn't get a raise, and I talked to that person today, and they were still on board with that fact. So I don't think you're going to hurt anybody's feelings.
All right, hearing no motion to change the line, do I have a motion to recommend Article 9 as printed?
I'm sorry. I'm not, I had comments. I'm waiting
Oh,
until
yeah,
you were
go
finished talking about police. I want to talk about the fire and rescue budget. I know that the budget is balanced from last year to this year. There's no increase in it. However, in the last 6 years, there has been an average of a $54,000 surplus at the end of each year. That's average. In one year it was 70,000, in another year it was only 40 something. But and I do know that, having discussed this at the ABC and then having discussed it with the selectmen, Mr. Bowie took back to the selectmen that they were asking the chief to reduce his budget and allowing him to figure out where it would come from, because he could make the best decision on that. Their decision was to ask him to reduce it by $15,000 that I'm aware of, and I asked if there was any conversation or information or, you know, even a spreadsheet that came from the chief to take a look at that or discuss it. And my understanding is that there is none. There has been no cuts to that budget. I'd like to propose actually a $30,000 budget. If you look at the average that's spent over the last 6 years, the high has been $125,000 a year. If you account for a $70,000 at the end of the year obligation that I averaged in, if you take that $70,000 obligation out because it wasn't in the budget, it was unexpended funds, excuse me, if you take that out, the average spend for that department has been $113,000. Now, I'm not suggesting that we remove $50-something thousand from the fire budget, because I do know that there are things that cannot necessarily be predicted, and I recognize that the chief has to balance quite a few things. However, if year after year after year we're returning in excess of on average, in excess of $50,000 to the unassigned fund balance, there seems to me to be some ability to reduce that in order to keep the money in the taxpayer's pocket. I understand that it gets returned at the end of the year and it buys down the tax rate. However, if we don't charge them that in the first place, you won't necessarily have to buy it back down by that amount. So I'd like to see the fire rescue budget reduced by $30,000.
Can I speak to that, please? Am I on? I appreciate and I understand what you're saying, and I do. I just want to point out that of all the departments that we have, this is the only, one of the few departments that does not have an expandable trust fund. Okay, so in the event there's some engine or some equipment that goes wrong, it goes wrong probably to the tune of $50,000. So I guess maybe the alternative or maybe the compromise would be to have this expandable trust. What happens with that is you put, say, the $30,000 into it, and it stays there. It does not come back to us. And then maybe you add to it the next year. Whereas consistently, it has been over, correct, but it has always come back to us. And that's the only point I'd like to make.
As the selectman's rep to the capital improvement committee, we did go through all of the equipment based on the information that we had. And we did talk about potentially putting in or proposing a fire department ETF, just like we did propose for the police department. But we've also asked for a fleet report, like the DPW has given us, all the vehicles in the fleet, pictures, descriptions, what they use it for, and things like that. So I feel like once we get that from the fire department and we have more information on the fleet itself, and you can, I believe on the website is the latest. If the latest isn't up, it'll be up, I think, before town meeting. The capital improvement plan, the spreadsheet that has all the equipment listed and what information we do have. So I think in the future, perhaps next year, once we have all the information about the fleet and have the fleet report, that will absolutely be a recommendation for next year. But where it has been approximately 50 under budget for so many years, I think it's safe to bring the budget down.
Any other discussion from this board? Any motions from this board?
I'll make a motion to reduce the budget by, say, I think $30,000 will bring it down and still give a $10,000 cushion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second by Nicole. Before we vote on this, Chief, would you like to speak to it?
Make a difference?
It may.
You wouldn't believe how much exposure you get when you talk about public funds. I mean, you guys do, but I get pressure from my membership because I don't spend enough money. And this may be the first time I've ever experienced being punished for being fiscally responsible. I would like, before you cut the budget, I would like somebody to tell me when and what vehicle is going to break down that I'm going to need to repair, because that's the only way I could tell where. I understand the commentary and everything. For the past 2 years, department heads have been asked to level fund or cut. I don't feel comfortable cutting. We're the lowest fire department budget in the county. I've kept it level funded. And of the major departments in town, I'm the only one that did that. And you know what? It doesn't make any difference. I don't need a pat on the back or anything, but some recognition would be appreciated. That's never happened. It's always turn back to the people. That's the best that I can do, is not spend it. My predecessors in office would look in the month of November, December, and they would spend that down to the penny if they could on things that weren't planned for. I don't do that. I turn it back to the people. That said, if we had a catastrophic failure, likely there's not enough budget in the budget to make the repair, because Heavy trucks are expensive to repair, depending on what happens, a transmission, a motor. They're very expensive. So it's not crazy the way that it's budgeted, but it may not be enough if that event were to happen. And again, it's that simple. If vehicles don't break down, I don't have to spend on repairs, the money gets turned back. If equipment doesn't break, I don't have to replace it, the money gets turned back. But we're working with expensive stuff that if it breaks down or fails and needs to be replaced, it's going to be expensive. We've been lucky, and when's my luck going to run out? I don't know. But I'm doing the best that I can, and I'll continue to do that. And I would just ask you, I came in level funded the last 2 years. If you could support that. I mean, we just had a dispute over not wanting to cut $8,000. Now we're talking about cutting 30 from emergency services. That seems a little disingenuous.
Thank you, Chief.
If we were cutting services, I would agree with you, Chief, but this is money that, again, for 6 years in a row has not been spent. It's been budgeted for, but not been spent. If this were vehicle maintenance money, I would absolutely agree, but the budget line for vehicle maintenance is only $12,000. EMS equipment repair is only $2,000. So this is not necessarily in your budget for vehicle repair or something that happens along those lines. These are lines that historically haven't been used for at least 6 years that we think. If you believe that you need some of this money back into the budget for those vehicle repairs, I'm absolutely willing to discuss that and consider it. I just believe that in this budget there is room, in this one in particular, there is room for downscaling a little.
Cheryl?
I would just say it's, cutting it sets a really poor precedent for other department heads, because they're gonna say, if I'm not spending it, you're gonna cut it. And trust me, I know how much time and effort and everything that goes into that department. But, I mean, what's to stop another department from saying, hey, I have $100,000 left in November. I'm gonna go buy something I don't need. Because if I have this left over, selectmen are gonna cut it anyway, so I'm not gonna have it. So I think it just sets a really bad precedent.
I don't think the budget should be cut, because if it's not there, and if we need it, where do we get it from? Like, if you look here, it was budgeted for $12,000 for new equipment. We spent $400. So that saved us $11,000. But what if next year we need $12,000 worth of equipment? Where does that come from?
Well, that's during the budget process when you forecast and using the capital improvement plan for planning some of those purchases. Now, I recognize that things happen, things break, does in the DPW, and we figure out as a town and we figure out as selectmen where that money might be able to come from. There are other areas within the budget, and the selectmen have the ability to make those changes. I'm just saying that if 6 years in a row we're not spending that $50,000 on average, then there is room for reduction.
So if we spent an extra $50,000 a year, would it be increased $50,000 next year? That's what I'm just trying to get to the point that it's here, it doesn't get spent, it saves money, goes back to town.
My point is that it's there, it's not been spent for 6 years, which means it didn't probably need to be budgeted in the first place.
Yeah, but if something were to happen, like a motor's $50,000. That's why it's not getting spent, because if something happens.
So I think the expectation, again, as the selectman's rep to the capital improvement committee, where if you look at the capital improvement plan, we track the hours of the engine hours of the equipment, the age, I believe I know the DPW uses iWork. I believe the fire department uses iWork. Can you predict every catastrophic event? Absolutely not. But I mean, if this is the outlook we're going to use, then I guess I make a motion to add $50,000 to every other budget. I mean, is that kind of the
Sounds good to me.
Is that the mentality that we're having? Is
I do pay taxes.
In the last article, there's a position we don't know if we'll ever fill, and we could be cutting $60,000 to $65,000 out of that line, and the excuse was used, if it's not spent, it'll go back into the unreserved fund balance to buy taxes down. Isn't that the same argument with this extra $40,000?
No, I think it's very different because we used that $72,000 a year last year for an employee. So now we have an opening that we don't know whether or not we're going to fill it.
Not if you have a plan in motion for your next guy in line previous to these things happening.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow that. Could you repeat it?
Not if you have plans in motion prior to these things happening, because what if it was a worse event where that department had passed away suddenly? Now you don't have somebody ready to step up and fill that position within the department. So if you have somebody in the department that can step up and fill it, you're looking between $60,000 and $65,000 you can cut out of this line item. That's $25,000 more than what you're looking to cut right now out of this $40,000.
If we knew that, then that would be a decision we could make. However, we don't have all the information to make that kind of decision.
No, I think we can all agree that the Madison Fire Department is essential services to this town. When we all dial 911 when there's an emergency, Mike and his guys show up. And this is my personal opinion, I think the $30K cut is too much. You know, our equipment is getting older. Was it last year, Chief, that the pump went out? And it was used the ARPA money, I believe, right? $20,000, $30,000 to repair that pump. You know, Michael's trying to keep older equipment running. You know, if you go over there, the equipment is well maintained. You know, his guys are doing a good job on it. Again, I don't think 30K, I think that's too much. But before we discussed, what, 10 or 15K or something like that, maybe that's something we can compromise on, but I don't want to see us cutting money from essential services either, you know, because again, if the pump goes out or the transmission goes out on our older equipment, you know, we're going to be in a hole there. And I believe Chief Brooks is trying to do a great job on managing his budget. He's flat, you know, and every time I've seen the fire department out or there was a big fire, Mike knows, in our neighborhood a couple of years ago, those guys showed up and you know, and they work hard, they train hard, and I'm a big supporter of the fire department, so I'll admit I'm biased there. But I think 15K is more reasonable if we're looking to try to recover some of the unspent money.
Well, the last thing I was going to say, there's a lot of commentary that the DPW is doing great things and everything. The same guy that enters their information enters all of mine. The fleet maintenance program is town-wide. All of my stuff, if it's not entered into iWork, I believe that it is. As of this morning, Dave told me he was up to date with everything. The only thing he wasn't sure was I just got that pump repair done. It was $48,200, something like that. So, and the gentleman that replaced that pump on a 2005 truck said that was one of the finest maintained vehicles he'd worked on in a long time for its age. And he said it should, with this pump work that we had done, the upgrade, subject to other market conditions and being able to keep parts for an older truck, keep finding them, we should be in good shape for a number of years.
I just want to make sure that, you know, we all understand that we're talking about the budget. We're talking about dollars. We're talking about, you know, what we're going to spend or not. We're not judging the quality of the people performing the services. We're not talking about that. We all support our employees. We all support, the folks who are out there running into a burning building. I think that goes without saying. But this is a fiscal conversation. We want to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible and consistent.
Are you coming back up? Motion was made by Joy and seconded by Nicole to cut this by $30,000.
I'm willing to amend that to just cut it to 15,000, or cut 15,000 out of it. So I'll make a motion, I'll withdraw my motion and make a motion to reduce it by 15,000. Since that was what the board had asked a few weeks ago anyway.
Motion's been made by Joy to cut 15,000. Do I have a second? Yeah, so Joy withdrew her original motion, made a new motion to cut 15,000. Do I have a second? Second by Nicole.
Oh, are you going to discuss it again? Sorry, I'm going to. I'm going to say something. I guess, the point is made by Chief and by pretty much everyone in the room about catastrophic issues. And I guess it would be nice in the future to see, since there's so many underspent lines, maybe up a line that it covers the catastrophic and take away from the other lines, if that makes sense. So it feels more like we are preparing for that instead of constantly funding a line that is extremely underspent, if that makes sense, yet not losing the money because it's in there under what if something happens, if you want to call it that line, if you know what I mean. Because I agree that somebody, maybe Jim, said something about, some of these things are going to be over $50,000 to fix. I would just like to see some notes in the comments and maybe some rearranging of the numbers so that we can see that over budgeting is for the just in case, since that seems where the conversation has taken us, is the just in case. Thanks.
Yeah, if you want to get into specific lines, we look at dry hydrants was $1,500 that wasn't spent. Dues was $2,700 that wasn't touched. EMS training was $2,500 that wasn't touched. Equipment testing was $8,000 untouched out of 10. New equipment was $11,579 not touched. Not touched, but remaining from the $12,000 that was budgeted. We had $5,000 in training. That line was untouched. We have $1,600 out of a $2,000 supply line. So, I'd be on board with, like Nicole says, moving that, for example, to the vehicle maintenance line, which is $12,000, to make sure that if we do have vehicle expenses that, they're taken out of that line. And then if we still need to have a dry hydrant line, I'd propose put $1 in it, like we've done in other areas of the budget, to preserve that. And a year that we know that we're going to, in dues, if we know there's a year we're going to have to pay dues that cost $2,700, okay, that's what that budget line is that year. But if we're, not paying $2,700 worth of dues every year, let's move that over into the vehicle maintenance line.
You can vote.
Well, I want to make sure Sloan doesn't have something else to say before we vote.
I guess, Donahue, I have a process question. How often does this board, the select board, and the budget committee meet with department heads?
The majority of our department heads are at our meetings on Tuesdays.
To talk about budgets?
Whenever we're in budget season, they'll put their budget together and then we review it.
So department heads on a routine basis come and present their budgets to both boards. Is that correct?
During budget season, correct. They present them to both of us. Sloan?
What's your answer?
All of the department heads came to a budget meeting. We apportioned them out like 2 per meeting to go walk through and discuss their budget line by line. And then, because we have a selectman's rep on the board, if there were additional questions, and through Linda, we convey questions back to the department heads. The department heads are always welcome. Chief Hayford came several times to explain an item that, wasn't an easy email answer or wasn't an easy, just give the answer to Linda and she can convey it. Every department head is welcome to come. We do sort of require them, if you will, to come the one time to present their budget to us.
Are you happy with the process as is?
Well, there's always room for improvement.
Thank you.
Sloan Durrell. Would it benefit us to have like a catastrophic fund where we just put some money in it every year or whatever and build it up in case something like that happened? I don't know. Just a suggestion.
Conversation to have. I don't know. All right. Motion was made by Joy and seconded by Nicole to cut $15,000 from this line. All those in favor? Nobody else can hear you down here, sorry. Joy, well, that was a yes. Nicole? No? No. All right, so the motion fails. Budget will remain as is. All right. That being said, do I have a motion to recommend Article 9 as printed?
I'll make that
Motion by Jim,
Second that?
second by Jake. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No. 401. Sharon?
410.
Oh, sorry, 410. Yep.
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend Article 9? Motion by Nan, do I have a second? Joe, second. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed? Nay. It's a 2-2.
Thank you. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $363,563 for the purchase of a plow truck, with the entire amount to come from the unassigned fund balance and no amount to be raised by taxation. It is anticipated that the town will be reimbursed $255,044 of the above amount from a Granite State Clean Fleet Grant Agreement. Questions from the public? Seeing none.
Just as a point of clarification, just so that if you haven't necessarily done the math, the $363,000 is the cost of the truck, the plow, upfitting it, putting it all together, getting it on the road. $255,000 of that would be reimbursed through a grant, which we have already been approved for. Okay, that grant already exists. We merely have to show the receipts and that the truck is on the road in order to receive that $255,000. That leaves the balance of about $110,000 that's going to come from the unassigned fund balance.
Hearing no comment from the public, do I have a motion from this board to recommend Article 10? Moved by Jake, second by Joy. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the ABC to recommend Article 10? Nan moves. Do I have a second by Joe? All those in favor? 3. All those opposed? You abstain. I need a reason for the abstention. You need a microphone, please.
I think it's a good deal, but I think the process was not correct. Didn't come to the town. The town is going to spend $110,000 for this vehicle that was not approved by the voters. We just argued 20 minutes ago about $8,000. Now we're saying $100,000 is okay. So I don't want to vote no because I think it's a good deal, but in good conscience, I can't vote yeses either. Thank you.
All right. Yes, Nicole? Yep, go ahead.
Two things. Although I'm voting for the truck, but I feel 100% it's Grader 2.0 and I'm backed into a corner. I read the grant funding documentation about 5 minutes before the meeting to approve it, because that's when we received it. So I really didn't like some of the things I read in it. I felt we could do a better job. There was no hurry. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the truck we're utilizing right now. We had till the end of 2027 to decide on a truck according to the grant. So I just want to put that out there in full disclosure. And we had the option of buying used. So in full disclosure, I was not very comfortable with the process when I sat down at that table that night, and that was the first time I laid eyes on the very thick grant documentation. And to go back to Donna's question, I don't know when the department heads come because I'm new and I was appointed halfway through the year, but I met with Chief Hayford, but I did not have any clarification on the DPW budget or the fire budget during the process that I've been appointed as a select board member, only the police department. So I just want to be fully honest. I don't know, and I've been sitting here since either late September or early October. I hope that helps.
Well, my understanding of the grant was we had till the end of 2026. Maybe that was miscommunication or whatever, but that was my understanding of it, and that's why we moved in the way we did. But in any case, we've already voted on it. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $134,000 for chip sealing of town roads, including but not limited to East Madison Road, Pound Road, Colby Hill Road, Greenwood Road, Danforth Lane, Heritage Road, and Peak Vista Lane. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 3276 and will not lapse until the funds have been exhausted with the completion of the project or by December 31st, 2031, whichever is sooner. Cheryl?
I just want to make sure that the next 1, 2, 3, 4 articles, I think, deal with DPW stuff. I want to make sure that those numbers or the projects aren't going to change because the DPW director resigned.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't. Okay. And then my other question is on this chip sealing one with East Madison, Pound Road, blah, blah. Are all those roads listed guaranteed to be done? And then if there's more left over, you'll take care of some other roads?
Of the proposed from the DPW.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions from the public? Do I?
Can I just make a quick comment? If any of you have not watched I guess it's on YouTube. It was recorded by the Mad TV folks of the New Hampshire T2 folks that came and did the presentation. It will give you quite a bit of insight as to why the town is proposing and the DPW is proposing these several warrant articles. These warrant articles do not take care of the worst roads in town. They take care of roads that have recently been worked on in order to keep them from becoming the worst roads. And if you watch that presentation, you'll understand why this is the way they recommend to do this.
I actually just pulled up the presentation on my laptop, and like the relevant slide to me is where they show if you keep these, the green roads green and you maintain them a little bit every so often, and then you have the major rehabs that are required. And once you do a major rehab, you then add it to the cycle of not needing as much maintenance. Then all of your roads are in this cycle of not needing major rehabilitation. So jumping ahead, but then jumping back, we do have a warrant article to save $100,000 for the major rehab of some of these worst roads to bring them up to the level of these 3 warrant articles where they don't need, where they need minor, I'll call it, maintenance on an ongoing basis.
Seeing no comment from the public, do I have a motion from this board to recommend Article 11?
So moved.
Moved by Jake. Second by Joy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend Article 11? Second. All in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Who's the second?
Doug motioned, Joe second.
Right. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $260,700 for paving of town roads, including but not limited to Mooney Hill, Town Line Road, and Deer Drive. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32-7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until funds have been exhausted with completion of the project or by December 31st, 2031, whichever is sooner. Any questions? Motion's made by Joy to recommend Article 12. Second by Jake. All those in favor? Aye. Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend Article 12? Nan motion, Joe second. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,500 for crack filling of town roads, including but not limited to High Street. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32-7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the funds have been exhausted with completion of the project or by December 31st, 2031, whichever is sooner. Any questions? Seeing none. Motion by Joy.
Second.
Second by Jake. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend Article 13? Joe motioned, Doug second. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Article 14, to see if the town will vote to establish a road reclamation and rehabilitation capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for reclamation and rehabilitation of paved town roads, not for general maintenance, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be placed into this fund. So this is that talk of rehabilitating our worst roads and adding to this fund going forward for that purpose. Any comments, questions? Michael?
I think for the topic of the previous three articles and this one, it may be helpful to have perhaps the list of roads categorized on display at town meeting, because folks are going to wonder what kind of road they live on.
I know the DPW guys were working on updating the paved roads capital improvement plan that does have the color-coded roads. So I can ask them if they can have that ready by town meeting and have that information available to the public.
And since we were at the class together, just, to give a little grace to the guys that work for the town, it's really hard to make full judgments when it's full of snow. Doesn't look the same come spring. So we're going to do the best we can. But when you're handed something in the middle of winter, it's really hard to tell what's going on underneath all that. You know what I mean? So just give them a little grace in case things change.
I'll add one more thing real quick, if that's okay. So the UNHT2 program, when those folks came up and gave that presentation, they were estimating how much it would cost for the town of Madison, because they had a lot of specific information, not quite the exact miles of roads, but they had pretty specific information. And they estimate that it costs the town of Madison, or that we should be paying $1 million a year to maintain our roads. And I think last year was the first year that we even hit 400,000. So we have some catching up to do.
Right. Motion was made by Jim to recommend Article 14. Do I have a second? Second by Jake. Sorry, Joey, beat you to it. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0, Sharon.
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend Article 14? Doug motion, Joe seconded. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Article 15, to see if the town will vote to establish a police cruiser expendable trust fund per RSA 31:19-A for the purpose of the future purchase of a police cruiser and upfitting of the same, and appropriate $25,000 for this purpose, and further to name the selectmen as agents to expend from this fund.
Hi, George Epstein. Article 15, in the creation of a new expendable trust fund. At the end, further to name the selectmen as agents to expend from this fund. I am standing to question that. For decades, this town, and most of the towns, would create capital reserve funds. Money would be put into those funds, and then when it was time to expend money from one of those funds, there would be a warrant article. The town would have the opportunity to look at the vehicle or the capital expenditure, raise questions about it. Should it be used? Should it be new? And have the opportunity to weigh in and ultimately approve the purchase. We now have in Madison virtually all of our capital reserve funds simply hand over the authority to spend that money when and if the selectmen so decide to do that. And the selectmen have expertise, they're in the middle of it, there can be emergency situations, but for decades it wasn't a problem. And now we have a situation where we have hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably, and Linda, it would be interesting to know the number, $1 million or more that is sitting in a pot, a bunch of pots, with restrictions on how it can be spent, but where the selectmen have complete authority to spend it when and if they wish to. And I would like to see this language changed and eliminated, and I would like to know the process at town meeting whereby the other capital reserve funds can be returned to the control, the final expenditure to be returned to the control of the voters. And not simply leave that to the selectmen. I believe there are some capital reserve funds that make sense to be under the control of the selectmen because they're the ones most likely to be triggered by an emergency kind of situation. But most of them are not emergency situations, and the purchase of the police cruiser is going to be planned. It's something that we can plan for. Why not allow, as we do with all the other expenditures, the townspeople to weigh in and to authorize the expenditure and what it was being expended on?
So any of the capital reserve funds still remain with the legislative body. It's the ETFs that are at the selectmen, which this would be. So nope, this is a capital reserve. So any of the current capital reserves remain with the town vote.
I don't believe
But
that's
not-
true of all of them. But that would be a good thing for you
Sorry.
guys to assess and to analyze. And I may be wrong as to what the weighting is. But there's an awful lot of money. I think you'd agree, Mr. Chairman, that there's an awful lot of money sitting in buckets that is solely under the control of the selectmen to expend when they wish, for what they wish.
When it came to creating the number 14, the road fund, I talked to Cordell, town attorney, and I said that the selectmen wanted this to be a capital reserve fund, and I said I automatically assumed that that meant that the selectmen could not be the agents to expend on a capital reserve fund. And he told me, no, they can be. You can make an agent to expend on a capital and a expendable trust fund. The real difference is the word capital. It's more of a capital improvement, like roads, versus an you might not make what's the one? We have one for new computers. That would not need to be a capital reserve fund because it's not a capital expenditure. It's more like just a expendable trust fund. So that would be something the selectmen might have more control over. But what I learned was that both kinds of funds can be have the selectmen be the agents to expend.
Which is my concern. And I don't think this is particularly a power grab over the past 10 or 15 years by the select board. I think it's something that's been encouraged by the attorneys around the state. They think this is a really slick idea that, that lets select boards be more powerful. And remember who pays the bills of our attorneys. They're driven by the select board's power and authority. They don't care about the town. And the same's true of the school board. The goal of the attorneys is to make sure that people who are paying their bills are in the most powerful position possible. And so I believe the attorneys have influenced the selectmen over the years to move in this particular direction. My request is that you explore it, that you take a look at all the funds that are sitting out there, which are the ones that are truly under your complete control, which are the ones that have to come back to the town, and in which cases should it best come back to the town and the expenditure be done by the town. And it gets you out of the middle of some of these decisions you've been put into making, you've been stuck making around purchasing equipment that would have taken the pressure off of you if the town had heard it all, if the budget committee had the opportunity to hear it all, everybody had their input. It's not sitting solely on your shoulders and you get blamed for whatever people want to blame you for. It's a better approach if in fact the townspeople can weigh in and help contribute to that decision. Thanks.
Thank you, George.
Actually, I think, George, I have some information for you. We currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think 11 expendable trust funds. Assessing, general government, computer equipment, highway heavy equipment, PEG TV, ETF, transfer station project, ETF, historical society, building improvement, STR legal expense, Silver Lake Dam improvement, ball field, groundwater remediation, and master plan ETF. These are all expendable trust funds. As far as I can tell, all of them are selectmen as the agents to expend, except possibly the master plan ETF. I'm not quite sure.
Do you have a dollar
that one.
estimate of the value of those?
The current balance is, as of 1/7, was $497,146, about $500,000.
Okay, and obviously it fluctuates as you drain some and put some in, but yeah, having $500,000 sit there, given us arguing about a few grand here and there, that is totally taken out of the hands of the voters is my issue. Thanks.
I have a couple things based off of what Mr. Epstein actually just stated. First is there a mechanism, I mean, this is not to him, but is there a mechanism when we sell a cruiser, trade it in, to put that back into an expendable trust fund to help offset that $25,000 line in years to come?
If we were to trade it in, it would offset, but currently there's no mechanism in place to sell it and put that money aside. Not that there couldn't be, but currently there isn't.
Okay.
Actually, to answer that real quick, the Capital Improvement Committee was assigned by the Select Board the creation of a disposal, sort of a disposal policy to make sure that we can, whenever possible, when we dispose of something, whether it was by sale or putting it on municipal bid or something, that yes, we can make sure the money goes towards the next purchase.
Because I think in years past, that's always gone back into the general fund.
And also we have, I can show you one of the capital improvement plan that does show when things are due to be purchased next, and what's the estimated cost, year to replace, cost to replace, what's the purchase before offsets or financing, what are your expected offsets, for example, trade-in, sale, grant, and then interest to finance, things like that. So we are tracking that and trying to make it a more proactive program.
Yep. And then to Mr. Epstein's point, I would consider that if the voters are agreeing to put $25,000 into the line year over year, that would be the voters approving to purchase a cruiser once there is enough money in there. As far as I don't think it needs to be a special warrant article to buy that cruiser. And if the selectmen are agents to expend, if something does happen, we do try to get as long as we can out of cruisers. But if something happens in November or even October, September, and the money is in that account, they can then replace that cruiser and we can get a new one. And it's actually faster to replace cruisers in the fall than it is in March when everybody else is getting one approved and getting in line at the outfitters.
Yep.
So I'm not normally in favor of necessarily creating expendable trust funds, except where I believe that they make absolute sense. In this instance, we're not creating sort of a nebulous capital or expendable trust fund for saving for some future idea that it might or might not happen. We know, based on the work that we did with the capital improvement plan, that within 2 to 3 years, we will have to replace one of the police cruisers. There's a 2019 Dodge Charger sitting out there that probably should have been replaced about a year ago or so. And the police department has done a really great job in keeping that vehicle together. This expendable trust fund gives you a methodology for not having to spend in a single year $75,000 in order to replace a cruiser. This gives you a couple years worth of building up to it. The same as you might in your own personal finances. If you're going to buy a new car, you might save up for it for a couple years. And so in this particular instance, because it is for a very specific purpose as opposed to a general purpose, that I think that it makes financially to not have to take a lease out for 7.9% or 8% or even 6.5%.
Do I have a motion from this board on Article 15? Motion by Jim, second by Joy. I assume that motion was to recommend? Yes. Perfect. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0.
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend approval of Article 15? Joe moves, Nan seconds. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $60,000 to be placed in the previously established Highway Heavy Equipment Expendable Trust Fund. Current balance is $21,700. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I have a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
Just some of the thought process. Part of this money, the recommendation for the $60,000, this was originally $10,000. This highway heavy equipment expendable trust fund gets used predominantly to fix heavy highway equipment when it's not catastrophic, but when a repair comes up that is outside the budget line, when they don't have enough in the DPW vehicle maintenance line to handle the repair of, an $8,000 plow or, something along those lines. And so 10,000 goes into that for this. And so 10,000 of this would add to that 21,700 to become 31,000 for repairs. The other 50,000, because this heavy highway equipment ETF is twofold. It is repair and it is refurbish and replace. There had been no money going into here for any kind of vehicle replacements. And so the $50,000 is a start, if you will, to that type of replacement. The CIP shows several vehicles in the DPW's arsenal that will require replacement in the not too distant future. If we have to replace more than one of those vehicles in a single year, we're looking at well over $500,000, probably close to $1 million. So $50,000 is not much to put into that replacement fund, but at least it starts to put that money aside again to try and purchase vehicles without having to spend the extra lease money, interest money, if you will.
So specifically, in 2027, looks like we were given to replace the 2008 Peterbilt dump truck. I'm not quite sure if the deadline is passed, but they're was an opportunity, I think, to get this on the same grant as the 2005 Peterbilt that we're replacing. And then we do need to do a DPW salt shed, but I don't think that that would fall under this Highway Heavy Equipment Trust Fund. But with the 2008 Peterbilt due for replacement by 2027, the 2014 Kentworth 10-wheel dump truck due for replacement in 2029, and then a 2019 Volvo wheeled excavator and a 2021 Cat 920 front-end loader, both due for replacement in 2031. Estimated value or estimated replacement cost is $371,000 for one, $247,500 for the other. So we're just trying to make sure that we don't get hit with all those things at once.
Right. Do I have a motion from this board on Article 16? Motion by Jim. Second by Joy. All those in favor? Aye.
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend Article 16 by Doug, seconded by Joe? All those in favor? Aye, 4-0.
Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the previously established assessing expendable trust fund. Current balance is $40,150. Any questions? Seeing none?
I'll just comment that the assessing contract went up a lot. So what we did was we signed a one-year contract, and then within this upcoming year, we're going to just shop around and just see what other companies are available and see if their pricing is any better.
Sharon, you're holding the mic.
I am sorry, just so
Do you
that I'm
need to-
ready for when you.
Okay, just checking. Do I have a motion from this board? Moved by Jake, seconded by Joy. All those in favor? Aye. Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend approval for Article 17? Doug moved. Joe seconded. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be placed in the previously established Silver Lake Dam Improvement Expendable Trust Fund. The current balance is $79,400. And this will go to the finishing up of the engineering to see what needs to be done to that dam.
Cheryl Littlefield, and I'm just curious what has actually been done and when the estimated date to replace the dam might be.
So this current sum is to engineer the repairs that will need to be done. We won't know a date on actual repairs until we finish this engineering study.
Am I correct that the actual cost of the engineering study was about $166,000, and so this $100,000 is to finish paying for that engineering study that we started to fund last year?
Correct. We opted last year to only fund the $66,000 and then finish it this year.
I can't recall, we signed the contract and the engineering study is in process?
It will continue once we raise and appropriate the rest of the money for the next couple of steps with, I believe it's MSK.
Did we have, so,
We are under contract with MSK.
okay, and they've done work to this point under previous dollar amounts?
It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. Not much has been done because we weren't trying to raise it all in 1 year. We were trying to spread it out, and this will be the final year.
I'm trying to put the pieces together since I got that, we saw that letter from Department of Environmental Services with a lot of recommendations as to what, what they see needs repairs. And it had referenced 2 previous reports by MSK, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around the big picture after reading that letter.
I recall them doing an initial study, but it wasn't a full engineering process.
Okay. Because it had referenced 2 reports by MSK. So one was a study and one was a follow-up, probably?
I believe so.
Okay.
His memory is better than mine, so.
Well, I'm unfortunately not an engineer, but they did some form of H&H study, which is hydrological and something. And then the reason I think for the two reports is it becomes a monitoring process because they're building the data of what the lake's doing to help them determine how they have to engineer the construction.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions? Do I have a motion from this board on Article 18?
I will motion.
Motion by Jim. Second by Jake. All those in favor? Aye.
Nan, we need to vote.
Can you vote
Can you
real
hold
quick?
1 second? Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to approve Article 18? Joe moves, Joe seconds. All those in favor say aye. 4-0, aye. Thank you, Nan.
All right. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $65,000 to be placed in the previously established groundwater remediation expendable trust fund. Current balance is $110,000. Questions, comments? Seeing none. Do I have a motion from this board?
I will make the motion.
Motion by Jake. Second by Jim. All those in favor? 5-0, Sharon. Oh.
I'm gonna pause for a second.
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to approve or recommend Article 19? Doug moves, Joe seconds. We have to wait for the vote. We'll wait, well, do those at the table, we'll take your, okay, so we have a 3-0 at the table if you want to wait for Nan.
What's that? We can.
You just wanna
continue
go forward
discussion
with
and we can ask her for a vote when she gets back. We can leave that motion open if that's.
I'll leave, okay, well. You can hear, she's drying her hands. Poor Nan.
It's like a play-by-play. No, I know. No, that's what we're getting. She's trying her hands. She's on her way out.
Who's going to start the slow clap?
There you go.
Actually, you need to know what you're voting on. It's Article 19 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $65,000 to be placed in the previously established groundwater remediation expendable trust fund. 4-0.
4-0, thank you. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,265 to be placed in the previously established master plan expendable trust fund. Current balance is $25,000. Cheryl?
The balance plus what we're putting in, is that the full amount of the master plan that we're expecting? And is all of that get paid to North Country Council?
Believe that is the full amount.
And we are legally required to have a master plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? We have a motion from this board? Motion by Joy, second by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend approval of Article 20? Joe motions. Do I have a second? Nan seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 4-0.
Just before you move on from this master plan, just want to, for people in TV land, there's going to be a lot of moving parts coming up real quick with questionnaires and so forth, seeking information to contribute to the amendment of the existing plan. So if somebody from the planning board or the committee were to contact you and ask you to answer a few questions, we would kindly appreciate if you'd give them a little bit of time and answer those questions.
Thank you, Mike.
I just pulled up handy dandy Facebook where it was posted that there is a community meeting for the master plan on Saturday, March 28th, 2026, time 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at Madison Elementary School. There is a survey online. I think there might be links to it on the Madison Town page. I can't remember. If you are on Facebook, there's a QR code that you can scan to register for this event, or a link that you can do to register for this event. And then I believe Tia Gagnon of the planning board is kind of leading the charge on this. So if you have any questions, hit up Tia. That'd be Tia Gagnon. Tossing the hot potato.
Right. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of forest maintenance, the entire amount to come from the previously established forest maintenance account and no amount to be raised by taxation. Current balance is $136,500. Questions? Motion by Jim. Second by Joy. All those in favor? Aye. Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend approval of Article 21? Doug moves, Joe seconds. All those in favor? Aye, 4-0.
Article 22, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of up to $5,000 for the purpose of land acquisition and conservation purposes, with said funds to come from the Capital Reserve Fund for land acquisition and conservation purposes. Balance $64,300. Questions? Seeing none. Motion by Jim, second by Joy. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Sharon?
Do I have a motion by the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend approval for Article 22? Joe moves, Doug seconds. All those in favor? 4-0.
Article 23, shall the town modify the optional veterans tax credit for service-connected total disability in accordance with RSA 72:35 from its current tax credit of $2,000 per year to $2,500? This is to compensate for one of the tax credits that will be losing.
Can't stack them.
Right, the state is making it so you're not able to stack the credits. This increases the single credit to cover both. Any questions?
Motion to recommend.
Motion by Jim, second by Nicole. All those in favor? Don't see a budget committee not raising. All right, before we get to petition warrant articles, we need to add in the $8,000 article. Just trying to come up with wording.
See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum.
All right, so the new, they'll be renumbered. So the new Article 24 will read, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,000 for the purpose of investigation into personal use of town property. Questions from the board? Yeah, I'm looking for a motion or comments, questions on the wording. I just made that.
Yeah, you have to use the raise and appropriate the sum of.
Okay. Do we specify that? Did it say up to?
I think raising, to spend, you can spend up to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't spend more, up to, so if it's underrated, then.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Can we add the word independent before investigation?
Sure. Everybody okay with that? can read it.
I'm just going to read it to make sure I have it right. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of up to $8,000 for the purpose of an independent investigation into personal use of Crown property.
All right, do I have a motion from this board? Motion by Nicole. Second by Jake. All those in favor? Aye.
Do I have a motion from the ABC on new Article 24 to approve, recommend? We don't approve, we recommend. I'll make a motion. Is there a second? That looks like there's a no. I do not have a second.
Would you like to make a motion the other direction?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to not recommend Article 24? Joe motions, Doug second, sorry. All those in favor of not recommending, say aye. Two. And those not in favor, say aye. Yeah, no, Nan hasn't voted, so one way or the other. Are you voting? You can abstain, yes.
So if we do not put this in as a warrant article, there is no money for this investigation, is that correct?
Correct.
Because it was removed from the regular budget. It doesn't. I'm going to abstain.
To not recommend.
And the reason for the abstention?
Reason for we need a reason for the abstention for the minutes.
I think it should have stayed in the regular budget, so I'm conflicted. If I vote yes, that says it's okay, and so that's my rationale.
I just want to follow up on Nance. I voted no because I believe the $8,000 should stay in the regular budget and be used as we discussed at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, where we said $8,000 would be allocated to this. That's why I voted no.
Right, Article 24 doesn't need a recommendation. It's a petition without any dollar value. The rest of these. Are there any new ones that I missed? Nope. 36,140. So in the past here and at town meeting, we would vote on all of the petition charity warrant articles as a whole. Does that suit the budget committee?
I'm sorry, you're like vote.
I'm trying. I'll hold it right here. In the past here and at town meeting, we vote on the petitioned charity warrant articles as a whole, as one lump sum, and that one lump sum total is $36,140.
And that is Articles 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31?
Correct. As they are currently numbered, the numbers will change, but. All right, so do I have a motion by this board to recommend Articles 25 through 31 for the sum total of $36,140?
So moved.
Moved by Jake,
I have a question.
second by Jim. Go ahead, Nicole.
I just want to ask the Budget Committee, because I was on it for 6 years, that each one of these nonprofits were verified that at least a Madison resident or residents are being benefited, because I know that's part of the vetting process, that we're not paying for Conway residents, et cetera, and we're taking care of our own town. So I just want to make sure that Madison residents are benefiting from each of these.
Yeah, I can answer that. I'm very familiar with all of these organizations, as many of you know. They're essential services, again, especially the fuel and energy assistance, Meals on Wheels, healthcare for uninsured people, the way station, support for homeless. We do have homeless here in Madison. The food pantry, we're serving 2 homeless people right now. What are the other ones? Osby Children's Fund and Family Resource Center, Children Unlimited. They do great work. They're up in Conway. They support Madison residents as well. Linda sends me the letters, the requests for the funding for these, and I do a spreadsheet. I put it together, and yeah, we get great value for the money that we're investing in this. It's very legit. They're great organizations, and they do assist a lot of people in Madison.
Thank you, Joe. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. 5-0. Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend approval of Articles 25 through 31? Dan motioned. Joe second. All those in favor? Aye, 4-0.
Thank you. And that is the end. Yep. All right. Before we all leave, if there's anybody willing to stay and help put away some chairs, we would greatly appreciate it.
Excuse me, can I make a comment or a clarification before we end?
Yep.
So just to clarify, the 4 of us here are elected ABC members, correct? We have Jake Bowie, who is a selectman representative. Our representative from the school board, an excellent representative, attended all meetings, has recently resigned. So just to clarify, we did have that participation. It was excellent. The second thing I wanted to say, I guess, and I don't want to go back to Article 5, but I'm very conflicted with the process, I guess, and the way they're all grouped. And to speak to Cheryl Littlefield's comment, each department head came to the ABC and went through their budget line by line. And a lot of good explanation as to why there's an increase. A lot of departments were level funded. When I go down and look through here, direct assistance, can't control, up 10,000 because of the economy, et cetera. Then we go to elections, and it's increased because we have more elections. These are all valid reasons. And then I flip over, and I look at the library, essentially level funded. And that's what we asked them to do. Madison Peg, again, planning board increased. We told there's no control over that because of the circumstances. And then you go down to the rec program, and this is probably one that I'd like to speak to because the explanation was for a technology, a computer program that would make the rec director's job more efficient, meaning she has more time to be with kids and plan those programs. So again, conflicted because we just voted no to all of this. And I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Nan. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Jake, second by Joy. All those in favor? Aye.